From 358 to 298 million years ago, the Earth was a very different place, a world far removed from the landscapes we know today. Welcome to the Carboniferous period, where colossal swamps stretched across vast continents, and the planet was a humid, tropical jungle teeming with strange life forms. In this ancient time, the world's atmosphere was rich with oxygen, and that made all the difference. The lush forests, with their towering ferns and primitive trees, were the breathing lungs of the earth, pumping oxygen at levels that were unheard of in any time before or after. The Carboniferous was not just a period of plant life, it was a time when the very foundations of life on land were being laid. Our story begins in these sprawling forests, where the air was thick with moisture, and the ground below was a patchwork of marshes, bogs, and stagnant pools. Imagine a world where the trees reached heights of up to 50 meters, where ferns stretched endlessly towards the sky, and the very soil was alive with a hum of ancient creatures. This was the time when terrestrial life was finding its footing. Tetrapods, early land-dwelling vertebrates, were beginning to thrive, and the oceans were home to bizarre, alien-like fish. Yet, it wasn't the vertebrates that ruled the land. No, the true giants of the Carboniferous were the arthropods. These giant insects, millipedes and their relatives, grew to terrifying sizes, some larger than any insect we have ever seen today. Their massive forms skittered through the undergrowth, their exoskeletons gleaming in the humid air. The sheer scale of these creatures would have been enough to make anyone's hair stand on end. The reason for this incredible size lies in the very oxygen-rich air. As oxygen levels soared to 35%, nearly double what we breathe today, the arthropods of the Carboniferous grew into titans. Imagine a dragonfly with a wingspan the size of a hawk, or a millipede stretching over 2 meters in length. These creatures were not just big, they were terrifying. Yet they were not alone in this world of giants. The seas were alive with creatures equally as strange, as bizarre as anything you could imagine. But as we move deeper into these swamps, we'll encounter some of the most unusual animals to ever walk or swim on this planet. As we step into these ancient swamps, the air is thick with humidity, and the sound of buzzing insects fills the air. The ground beneath us is soft, almost spongy, as if the very earth is alive. The rivers here flow sluggishly, carrying with them the remnants of plant life and the remains of the creatures that once lived. Some of these swamps were shallow, barely deep enough to submerge an animal's feet, while others were vast, sprawling lakes, their waters murky and unclear. These stagnant pools provided the perfect environment for a variety of strange life forms. But beneath the water's surface, something remarkable was happening. The very plants that made up these swamp forests were slowly decomposing, trapped in the low oxygen conditions of the bog. This process created a thick, tar-like substance that, over millions of years, would eventually become the coal we mine today. The roots of these ancient trees, such as the towering lepidodendron, would one day become the very foundation of the world's coal deposits. But at the time, these trees were giants in their own right, their trunks standing more than 3 meters in diameter, their branches reaching into the sky. It was these towering trees, along with ferns and horsetails, that dominated the landscape of the Carboniferous. The canopy above was a dense mass of fern-like fronds, with only a few small gaps letting sunlight filter through to the undergrowth below. And what an undergrowth it was! Thick with ferns and mosses, a tangled mess of greenery where smaller creatures could hide or where larger animals could hunt. This world was alive in ways we can hardly imagine today. The air was thick with oxygen, making it a paradise for giant arthropods. But it wasn't just insects that thrived here. This was also the time of some of the earliest amphibians, such as the strange salamander-like creatures that moved between land and water. Their amphibious lifestyle allowed them to exploit both worlds, snapping up prey in the swampy waters and hunting along the forest floor. But as we delve deeper into this period, we must consider the strange balance between life and death that existed here. The swampy bogs, despite their beauty, were often deadly places. The pools were shallow, but the ground around them was treacherous. For many animals, especially the larger ones, the thick mud could be their undoing. Yet, for others, it was simply another part of the ever-evolving dance of life on Earth. As we journey through this world of swampy forests and murky waters, we'll meet the animals that roamed here, each more bizarre than the last. From the massive dragonfly-like Meganeura, with its 70 centimeter wingspan, to the gigantic millipede Arthropleura, there is no shortage of strange creatures to encounter. These were the true rulers of the Carboniferous, creatures that could never be found again. But as we walk through this lush, green world, we are reminded that change is always on the horizon. The forests we see today are but the remnants of a once thriving ecosystem that would soon begin to fade. As the earth cooled and the climate changed, these great forests would recede, and with them many of the creatures that had called them home. But before we leave this world behind, let's take a moment to meet the extraordinary creatures of the Carboniferous, and perhaps understand why this period remains one of the most fascinating chapters in the history of life on Earth. As we explore deeper into this strange and alien world, it becomes clear that the Carboniferous was a place of extremes. The atmosphere was thick with oxygen, allowing creatures to grow to sizes that would be impossible in our current world. In these humid tropical forests, life evolved in ways that were both awe-inspiring and terrifying. But it wasn't just the plants that were giant. No, the true marvels of this world were the creatures that roamed the land, swam through the waters, and soared through the skies. Take, for example, the Meganeura, a true giant among insects. This dragonfly-like predator had a wingspan of 70 centimeters, larger than any modern dragonfly by a wide margin. Imagine this massive insect darting over the still waters of a swamp, its wings beating the air as it snatched up smaller prey in mid-flight. With no natural predators of its own, the Meganeura ruled the skies of the Carboniferous, its spiny legs capturing anything unfortunate enough to cross its path. Its size, combined with the abundance of oxygen, made it the apex predator of the swampy waters and the surrounding forest. But while the Meganeura was a terror in the skies, another beast dominated the forest floor, the Arthropleura. This massive centipede-like arthropod could grow up to 2 meters in length, making it one of the largest terrestrial arthropods to ever exist. With its segmented body and sharp cutting jaws, it would have been a fearsome sight as it slithered through the dense undergrowth of the Carboniferous forests. Despite its intimidating size and appearance, the Arthropleura was a herbivore, feeding on decaying plant matter and the thick layer of leaf litter that blanketed the forest floor. The forest itself was a paradise for these gigantic arthropods. Dense, fern-filled underbrush provided ample cover for both predators and prey. But not all creatures of the Carboniferous were so well adapted to the swampy land. Some creatures, like the Crassigyrinus, thrived in the water. Their long, tapering bodies and large, sharp teeth designed for ambush hunting. This early amphibian, though similar to a giant salamander, was fully aquatic, with tiny, vestigial limbs that it used only for minor steering in the murky waters. Its long jaws, lined with sharp teeth, were perfect for snapping up smaller fish and aquatic tetrapods that ventured too close. Yet the swamps weren't just home to terrifying predators. It was also the birthplace of one of the first true reptiles, Hylonomus. No bigger than a modern-day lizard, this small creature was one of the earliest land-dwelling vertebrates to evolve a skin covered in scales. These scales allowed it to survive away from water, giving it the freedom to explore the dense forest floor. It is said that Hylonomus hunted small arthropods, using its sharp teeth to tear through the tough exoskeletons of its prey. But perhaps most importantly, Hylonomus laid hard-shelled eggs, an evolutionary adaptation that would go on to shape the future of reptiles, dinosaurs, and even birds. Despite the fierce competition for resources, the Carboniferous period was also a time of unprecedented biodiversity in the water. In the swampy rivers and murky lakes, the Rhizodus reigned as the apex predator. This giant fish, growing over 5 meters in length, was the ruler of the aquatic world. With its long, sharp teeth and powerful lobed fins, the Rhizodus could ambush smaller creatures with terrifying precision. It's believed that the Rhizodus used its muscular pectoral fins to launch itself out of the water, striking at prey with the force of a modern-day crocodile. The rivers were not safe from this giant fish, and even the smaller creatures of the swamp had to remain on high alert whenever they ventured to the water's edge. However, the Carboniferous period wasn't just about giants. Among the bizarre creatures that roamed these swamps, one of the strangest was the Tullimonstrum, a small, mysterious creature whose true nature still confounds scientists today. With its cigar-shaped body, stalked eyes, and long proboscis, the Tullimonstrum looked like something out of a science fiction story. Scientists have struggled to place this creature in the tree of life, and its exact classification remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that this creature was a skilled predator, using its proboscis to hunt for small invertebrates buried in the muddy sediment at the bottom of the swamps. As we venture through the murky waters and dense forests, we can't help but marvel at the creatures of the Carboniferous. But as the world changes and the climate shifts, these strange, oversized creatures begin to fade away. The Carboniferous rainforest collapse marks the end of this incredible world, as glaciers and changes in climate lead to the retreat of the vast swamps. As the continents drift together to form Pangaea, the earth becomes drier, and many of these giant creatures, unable to adapt to the new conditions, disappear forever. But before they vanish, let's take a moment to appreciate the incredible life forms that once called these swampy forests home. From the towering lepidodendron trees to the terrifying Meganeura and the giant Rhizodus, the Carboniferous was a time of unmatched diversity and wonder. These creatures, each a marvel of evolution, would leave a lasting mark on the fossil record, shaping the world we know today. As the Carboniferous period fades into the past, we find ourselves on the brink of a new chapter in Earth's history. The lush, swampy forests that once covered the land are slowly being replaced by drier, more arid landscapes. The dramatic shift in climate, triggered by glaciations and a changing atmosphere, causes the once vibrant rainforests to shrink, and with them, the giant creatures that called them home. This is the end of the Carboniferous period, and with it, the reign of the massive arthropods, amphibians, and fish that dominated the swamps for millions of years. But even as the forests begin to recede, life on Earth doesn't stop evolving. The changes in the climate and the environment would give rise to entirely new ecosystems, filled with creatures that were adapted to the harsher, drier conditions of the Permian and beyond. The vast coal forests, though gone, would leave behind a legacy that would shape the future of the planet. As the thick layers of peat, now compressed into coal, fueled the rise of human industry millions of years later, the Carboniferous period would be remembered not just for its giants, but for the profound impact it had on the Earth's future. Yet, before the Carboniferous fades completely into the pages of history, let's take one last look at some of the extraordinary creatures that lived in this world of giants. From the strange and enigmatic Monstrum, whose true identity remains a mystery, to the mighty Rhizodus, the apex predator of the swampy waters, the Carboniferous period left behind a fossil record that continues to fascinate and inspire scientists to this day. In the waters, the Rhizodus was a true terror. This giant fish, with its powerful lobed fins and long, sharp teeth, was capable of launching itself out of the water to strike its prey with deadly precision. Its massive jaws could snap shut with the force of a modern crocodile, making it one of the most fearsome predators of its time. But even the mighty Rhizodus couldn't escape the changing world. As the climate shifted and the vast swamps receded, the once thriving ecosystems that supported these giants began to collapse, and with them the Rhizodus and many other species that had relied on these habitats for survival. Meanwhile, on land, the great arthropods like Meganeura and Arthropleura began to shrink in size, unable to cope with the changing atmosphere. These once mighty creatures, whose enormous forms had ruled the forests, were slowly replaced by smaller, more nimble species better suited to the drier, more temperate climates of the Permian. The rise of the reptiles, such as the small but significant Hylonomus, marked the dawn of a new era. These early reptiles, with their tough, scaly skin and hard-shelled eggs, were perfectly suited to life on land, and their evolution would lead to the age of the dinosaurs that would follow millions of years later. But the transition from the Carboniferous to the Permian was not just a change in the creatures that inhabited the Earth. It was a transition in the very fabric of life on the planet. The Carboniferous period had been a time of abundance and gigantism, but it was also a time of extremes. As the swamps dried up and the forests receded, the world became a much harsher place. The creatures that survived were those that could adapt to the changing conditions, and in the process, they would give rise to the new life forms that would dominate the Earth for millions of years to come. The Carboniferous period may be gone, but its legacy is far from forgotten. From the coal deposits that power our modern world to the incredible fossils that continue to reveal the secrets of this ancient time, the Carboniferous period remains one of the most fascinating chapters in the history of life on Earth. Its giant insects, amphibians, and fish may no longer walk the Earth, but they have left their mark on the planet forever. As we look back at the creatures of the Carboniferous, we are reminded of how much the Earth has changed over millions of years. The world of the Carboniferous was a place of wonder and danger, a world where life evolved in ways we can hardly imagine today. And as we continue to uncover new fossils and study the ancient past, who knows what other secrets this incredible time in Earth's history will reveal? If you've enjoyed this journey into the past and want to dive deeper into the mysteries of prehistoric life, make sure to leave a comment below. Tell us which Carboniferous creature fascinated you the most, and if there's a specific period or species you'd like us to explore next. And don't forget to subscribe to Prehistoric Medievals, because we've got plenty more ancient worlds to uncover. Stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next video.